Okay, fine. So let's start. Yeah. So yesterday, what we had done? We have fine. We have used a inner class, right? Fine. We have used a inner class. We already had a class called account, right? Where we were managing balance, right? It was having a balance field, and then fine. So what we did was we created a class called transaction as an inner class, and we have defined transaction as a inner class of account. Okay, and so the change which we have done is here. Okay. Okay. So our main idea was, yes, we would like to have a class called transaction as an inner class, and this was the main purpose. With the purpose that yes, whenever someone does a deposit or a withdrawal, or if there is a penalty, anything which affects the balance, fine, an object of transaction should be created. It's a transaction, something which goes in a passbook. And an entry of a transaction is what is fine. Transactions are entered in a or managed in a passbook, right? And because we have to manage, it's for each account, right? And therefore we said, okay, the change which we did here is, yes, in the instance variables, we've introduced an array. Okay, what we did was we said, oh, we'll have a array of all the transactions. So every account has account number, it has a name, it is having a particular what is the current balance here. Okay, plus it will now also have a array to put the transactions in. So we call it as a passbook here. And so passbook is a array variable which has which can have transactions. Okay, and because this is going to be, we initially allocated of size 100. Okay, whatever is the value of the initial. So yesterday we also did this, right? That initial passbook size as a value of 100. Okay, so yeah, that's a, so we allocated array this size. Now this 100 size array is there, but initially it is having no elements. Fine, we have not populated it. Fine. So as we as we create a new transaction, we would like to put it in the array. Okay, this is the entry should go in the passbook, like. Okay, fine. So to keep track of up to what point we have populated the array, we needed another variable called next transaction index, which is the index where the next transaction must be populated. Okay, and this should be getting incremented each time you make an entry. Okay, so when should we make the entry in this passbook? Whenever a transaction is created, right? So we go back to the constructor of the transaction. Let's look at the transaction constructor, right? So here is the transaction, right? This is the transaction. Okay, so the constructor, let's go through the constructor of transaction now. So yes, a transaction can be created if you specify the type of transaction, what type of transaction it is, and what is the amount of the transaction. Okay, fine. So if you give the type of transaction, yes, we have created another enum here, since we have limited type of transactions. And our transaction can be for the opening, when you open an account, fine, and it can be for a deposit, for a withdrawal, or it can be for a penalty, which is happening in case of a current account. Okay, so we have defined that transaction type as a enum. Okay, fine. Okay, so you specify this, fine. Now the first thing is it has a throws negative amount exception, because the amount here cannot be a negative value. Amount of transaction is always positive. Depending on the type of transaction, it will be either added or deducted from the balance. Okay, so first check anyway for checking the amount should not be negative. Okay, so that check should always be there, right? And then the next thing is, yes, every transaction has a type. So we said, okay, the type of the transaction and what's the amount of the transaction. So these are saved. And okay, this part, right? Okay, this part here is only to manage check, right? If you don't have space in the array left, if our array has become full, reallocate the array, copy the earlier array, fine, create a new array. Okay, fine. So we should be having so each time the passbook gets full, all entries are over, or let's have another passbook with all the earlier entries plus added space. Fine. So this logic, right? This if statement which you are saying, which I have highlighted, is for that. Okay, and now to make an entry, what do we do? Fine, account.this.passbook. I could have just written passbook alone. Okay, fine. And this is just fine. It's additionally written so that it becomes clear what it is, right? It is the fine. So it's not in the transaction class. The passbook is part of the account class. Okay, fine. And next transaction index plus plus. Fine. Use so next transaction index initially 0, increment by 1. Okay, but it will be put at 0 and increment is post. Okay, equal to this is nothing but a current transaction which has been created. Okay, so this is making the entry in the passbook, and then we have to update the balance. How do we update the balance? Whatever is the current transaction, fine, get the net amount. What is get net amount giving us? A positive or negative value of the amount, right? Okay, fine. Earlier we had used something like, okay, this the transaction type dot get the sign, right? Each transaction type, yes, we have that enum for the transaction type. We may have to go through that also, but yes. And then we added just these get methods. Each transaction is managing the date, time, has a narration. Narration is not maintained separately. We have picked it up from the description of the transaction type. Okay.
What is that account.this.passbook next transaction is equal to this? So what is this there?
Which one? Account.this.passbook.
71.
71. Yeah.
What is this pointing towards?
Account.this.
No,
okay.
Is equal to this.
Asha, equal to this. What is this? You are in the constructor of transaction. It's the transaction object which is currently created. See, we are doing it from the constructor itself, right? So it is that transaction which is being created is also entered in the passbook. Okay. This is, in a constructor, this is supposed to be the object which is being created.
It is referring to transaction.
Yes, the transaction object. Fine. Fine. And that's what we have used here also, right? We have said this dot get net amount. Okay. Fine. And we just had those methods, right? Description. So what? Okay. Let's just go through this. We have also get net amount being the sign, right? Plus 1 or minus 1 multiplied by the amount. Okay. So that's a net amount. Okay. Now let's go back to the transaction type. This is what we did for the transaction type. Okay. Fine. So transaction type maintains the sign plus 1 minus 1 plus it has a description. Okay, it maintains a description. Okay, so the description is the second parameter, right? You have put the constructor, second parameter is going to be a description. So huh? No, this is what is going to come in the description. Right? This dot sign equal to sign, so that's an integer value. Fine. First parameter here with every enum is a +1 or -1. Okay. Fine. So opening balance and deposits, they are the credit side, and withdrawal or penalties are debit side. Okay. So that's 1 or -1. Okay. So that gives us the sign, and the other one is the description. Fine. So here are the okay. So these are simple get methods only, right? In the transaction type. So narration is nothing but whatever is the type of transaction, from that pick the description. So that goes as a narration. In your passbook, you get a date, then there is a narration, right? And then comes the debit column, then the credit column, and then the balance. Okay. Fine. So this is the fine. So transaction constructor, fine. That's doing a lot of things for us basically. And these are the important things from the constructor of transaction, or rather, right, starting from here. Okay. Other part was anyway there. Oh, you have your variable instance variables. Just initializing. Okay. Instance variables being the date, time, the which is getting initialized with the what is the current system date time. Okay, by using the method called now. Okay, it's a static method to create a local date time. Okay. Fine, but this part is the additional part which normally we don't find in a constructor. Constructors normally just set the values, right? But we are doing additionally. Fine. In this part, we are actually accessing members of the account. Okay, we are updating the balance in the account. We are updating the passbook in the account. Okay. Okay. Fine. Yeah, get the transaction type. Now, if you look at the our usage, okay, how we have used it. This is how we have used it, right? Just call the constructor. So when we call the constructor, saying okay, in the constructor of account, it's the opening balance which was given as a parameter. Fine. So we create for a transaction is opening balance. The type is opening balance, and whatever is the opening balance, that's the amount for the transaction. Okay, we are not updating the balance. This was the case earlier, right? We are not setting up the value for the balance now. Only way to change balance is to create the object of transaction. Okay, this way we are able to make even the balance to be private. Our subclass needs it. Okay, anyone wants you see what we have done is we have said if you want to change, if you have any change in the balance, it has to be recorded.
But वैसा object create कर सकते हैं डायरेक्ट अपने न्यू ट्रांजैक्शन
हाँ न्यू ट्रांजेक्शन कर दिया
नहीं नहीं
हाँ
उसका कुछ ये रेफरेंस नहीं लिया कुछ नहीं डायरेक्ट
हाँ just call the constructor because anyway what's happening is happening in the constructor. इसका यूज कहाँ पे करें कंस्ट्रक्टर में किसके ट्रांजैक्शन के कंस्ट्रक्टर में कर लिया इसको यूज we said equal to this huh? So reference was taken and put in the array. See, otherwise someone could have done something like this. Of if I don't put in the constructor of transaction constructor में ये डाला है actually equal to this लिखा था. So when this is being created, it's getting this assignment, fine. So if you hadn't put that statement there, then every place he would have been writing, next transaction, next plus and that. So it's a slightly, so I said, okay, let it be just one place itself. And it ensures, right, it is guaranteeing there's no way, because each time you have a constructor of transaction being called, entry should go in the passbook.
एक जगह पे ही डिक्लेयर करना है.
हाँ, एक ही जगह पे कर दिया, entry in the passbook. Okay. This is nothing but making entry in the passbook. So we don't need this now, right? Okay, so it's like you are looking for, we just said new, yeah, that's fine. Okay, when you call the constructor, that's what is actually effectively happening there. Okay. In same way, after the constructor, it was the deposit and the withdraw method, right? And then we also did one more thing, that was the method called print passbook, right? I think it's somewhere earlier. Yeah. Okay. Here we have used the method called print passbook. Okay. And we added an additional method called print passbook to print the passbook. Okay. Yeah, you could actually change this to have okay, or you could add one more system on println to add a header. Okay, for the column headers could have been created here. Okay, fine. See, for example, what I would do here to create column headers would be something like this. Okay, println. Okay, printf is correct. Instead of saying %tf, actually we'll have to check out with how many character long it is, right? Yeah. So this one would be without the percentage, but something like -15s. Yeah.
Column के लिए भेजा सर.
Huh? So next to it, we'll say, okay, we are supposed to have, this part can be hard-coded part. Okay, this can be but some number of spaces will be needed. I'm not sure how many. We'll have to count that. Okay.
उसमें जो प्रिंट करना है वो कहाँ दिया?
Huh. Okay. This is here, right? %tf, that requires year hyphen month hyphen date, and t is giving us the time, hour, minute, seconds. Okay, so we'll have to count how many spaces are there. So that is one time adjustment we'll have to, with trial you should be able to get. But for the other fields, what you simply do is, okay, not even for, okay, so this is one. So after this, what we are supposed to have? Double quotes. Okay, fine. We can keep in double quotes. So percentage -15s, that's your narration. Okay, and maybe for the other things I will make it as -12s. So we get the same size basically. The idea is it should be aligned. Or okay, we keep it minus itself, right? Because these are the numeric fields. But we'll make it as S here. Okay. Make it as a string because it's in the header, comma. Okay, narration. I think, yeah, that's Okay. Yeah. So that should work. Okay. Only thing is, I think that space adjustment in the beginning will be a matter. Fine. So if you want, we can just test this out and adjust the spacing. Okay. Fine. So when you want to align, a printf is actually a very good option always. And formatted out. Printf is print formatted. Okay. Yeah, maybe you can just quickly check it and adjust the things. Okay, date time. Narration is coming. 2 spaces are extra, I think. Yeah. Okay. And so that, yeah, we can change this. That should work now. Okay. Right. Yeah.
ये कितनी बार प्रिंट हो रहा था डेट फॉरवर्ड डेट एंड टाइम
Oh,
कंटिन्यूअस
each time we say print passbook, then in the print passbook for every transaction it will print. See, it is part of the for loop, right? The printf is here. Okay.
बट यहाँ पे पैरामीटर आपने ज्यादा दिए ना कॉलम
Huh?
की
Huh. Because this is giving us the, these are 2 parameters, right? And both the type is fine, and we have repeated the date because these are, it corresponds to these TF and other is for TT. This output, if you look at it, this is one field I've printed. So I've printed the date with only the date part. I've printed the date with the time part. Okay, so that's why I have to repeat it. Okay. And then we have the narration, the amount fields, right?
बाकी का फॉर्मेट है 12D 12D
Yeah, that's for the, so this is for narration. S is the string. Okay, this is narration. This is for the withdrawals, and this is supposed to be for the deposits, and this formatting is for the balance. Backslash r backslash n is to get the new line. Okay. And so that's what you have done, right? And this was the ternary operator which we have used. Okay. Fine. You could have updated, so in the printf, right, that getting a blank instead of a 0. That I think we can check out somewhere. It will be there. Okay. Okay. Fine. So, any questions still from yesterday's thing or any earlier thing also? Any questions are there?